Each Tuesday at 3:30, we dive into the Phillies mailbag. Of course, you can send your questions to Frank on Twitter, at Frank Klose on Twitter. Frank joins us every week on the Boardwalk Honda Hotline. Frank, how you doing on this Tuesday?
Hi, I'm fantastic. How are you guys?
Doing well. So obviously we got to hit on first the news. Hector Neris gets called up. JP Crawford is sent down. You know, for Neris, this may be a good opportunity because he has been pitching pretty well. 1.45 ERA in AAA, 30 strikeouts, 18 and two-third innings. So when you look at the Phillies, bullpen has always been a question, and you bring back Neris, and if he can do a good job in, let's say, the 6th or 7th inning, that gives you even more depth out there.
Well, I think with Hector Neris, I almost feel like it got to be mental for him. Like he struggled a little bit, and it just kind of got into his head. I think he still remains a talented pitcher. Now, maybe when he got down to AAA, he just lit a fire under him, and he said he was going to pitch well, and he certainly did. And he's back. And now, remember, this is the same guy that saved 20 games to wrap up 2017, all in a row. So he didn't blow a single save in the last 20 opportunities. He could find himself pitching further back in the games, especially right now when Seranthony Dominguez has a little bit of a diminished velocity and is struggling a little bit. He might have the opportunity to step up and reclaim his old job, at least for a while.
Frank, on the other side of that, JP Crawford. Now, we just talked a lot about JP Crawford. I was personally high on him when he was drafted. I maintained that I think that he is going to be a good player in the major leagues. But he's been hurt a lot this year, and it's really hurt him the fact that Kingery, you can kind of move him around. They just traded for Cabrera, and Maikel Franco has kind of emerged the last couple months. But big picture here, we all know, everybody and their grandma knows that the Phillies are going after Manny Machado this offseason as far as free agency. What is the future of JP Crawford?
That's kind of hard to say right now. I think they will go after Manny Machado, but they're not necessarily going to get him. You can try, but other people are out there too that are also going to be trying to get Manny Machado. So a lot of it will be depending on how the offseason goes. I think he could still be a starting shortstop in the major leagues. And I think right now the situation was, and I alluded to this yesterday on the air, he was here, but what's the point? I mean, he wasn't really playing, and even after he was activated, he just sat on the bench and didn't make an appearance, which was a little bit puzzling. So maybe they finally realized, look, we're not doing this guy any favors. One thing that is kind of cool about sending him down now is he can come right back on September 1st, and the way the Major League options work, the Phillies won't be charged with an option for his contract if they bring him back within 20 days. And September 1st is within 20 days. So it's a way of sort of keeping some value for next year, too, in that they can send him to the minor leagues if they need to, an extra time. Because, maybe he ends up being a utility player for them. Who knows? I mean, there's still a lot to be determined. And I don't think we can really say right now what his future is. And I think the Phillies are just going to try to get the best possible players at every position they can. And if he's the best option for shortstop next year, well, he might get to start a shortstop, or who knows? He could still be a utility type in the major leagues.
Frank Klose with us. You can follow him on Twitter at Frank Klose. Frank, we're going to open up the mailbag now. First question. With the Phillies system filled with young pitchers, who do you think finds their way into the rotation regularly next season and sticks? Could be De Los Santos, Irvin, or Estremay. I mean, Frank, this is a good question because their rotation pretty much is set for the moment, and it could be for the next couple of years.
Yeah, I think the Phillies, this trade deadline, they showed that they really are kind of committed to seeing the five that they have. Certainly, Aaron Nola is not going anywhere. Jake Arrieta is not going anywhere. Zach Eflin is pitched in a manner that you have to say he can't go anywhere. And Velasquez and Pivetta have given them a lot of good stuff too. So right now there's no clear opening, but that doesn't mean that there isn't going to be one. There always seems like there ends up being an opening. In the immediate future, for example, there's a doubleheader this week. The Phillies are going to have to do some more roster shuffling so that they have another starter come up, and it's not clear yet if that's Suarez or De Los Santos. So guys like that will get opportunities now. The reason why Cole Irvin isn't going to get that opportunity is he's not on the 40-man roster yet. But I think if you're going to look ahead, if something opens, maybe because the Phillies make a trade, not that they're trying to get rid of anybody, but if you're trying to get better and and either let's say a Pavetta or something is a good asset back in a trade, well, then that maybe opens up a spot for somebody else. And I kind of like Cole Irvin first. I think Cole Irvin as a lefty, he's actually further along in his development than Ranger Suarez, who's also a lefty. But the reason why Suarez is getting the opportunities now is just a 40-man roster thing. So, but I think Cole Irvin has the best shot if a spot opens up next year to make the starting rotation. And and let's face it, if a spot doesn't open up, maybe he has to wait for. We never want to say this, but pitchers get hurt all the time. So, luckily the Phillies have been lucky in that regard this year. But it's nice to have some depth to step up in the case of an injury. But I think Irvin is somebody to keep an eye on for that next sort of long-term audition if something opens up.
Frank, next question in the mailbag is from Brad. He asks, what would you do to boost this Phillies offense? It seems easier said than done, but the answer might lie already in the organization.
Well, this is pretty funny because Gabe Kapler just posted his lineup within the last several minutes, and it actually looks a lot like what I proposed so far. But, of course, they don't have Wilson Ramos yet. I would try to stack the high OPS guys, that's on base plus slugging percentage guys, kind of all together as the best you can. And one of the radical things, if you want to call it that I suggested in the piece was to bat Asdrubal Cabrera third. And today, Asdrubal Cabrera is going to bat third. So he must be reading 97.3 ESPN.com before making his lineup card. Now, I'm just kidding. But yeah, I think that's what you need to do. Wilson Ramos, when he's activated, it looks like it could be tomorrow. Once he's activated, you put him in the middle of the lineup there, and then you have Cabrera up towards the top at batting third, perhaps. That allows you to keep Hoskins second. Today, Hoskins is batting cleanup, and Nick Williams is second. But I think once Ramos comes, Williams is going to bounce back down to maybe the sixth spot, which is a sign that you have some depth in your lineup. And you really just try to get the guys all in an order that are most likely to produce. And you just have to know that some of this is going to work out one day. Now, one thing to keep an eye on, and I mentioned this yesterday, Carlos Santana only has a .218 batting average on balls in play, meaning when he makes contact, the ball landed, and he gets a hit only 0.218% of the time, or not point, you know what I mean, 21.8% of the time for a .218 batting average. And the normal, kind of the average number for that is 300. So when a player makes contact, usually 30% of the time it lands for a hit. So there's a sign there that Santana is just getting a little bit unlucky. He's been hitting a lot of line drives hard at guys. And over time, that just sort of balances out. And you hope that it's doing that a little bit more as the season progresses. But Santana's batting fifth tonight, and I think that's where he's going to bat once Ramos comes in, and Ramos is going to bat cleanup.
Now, Frank, the last question in the mailbag, it's from Gary. He does ask, what is the plan with Wilson Ramos? And you kind of just alluded to it as well in the previous question. But when they do add Wilson Ramos back into the lineup when he's finally healthy and cleared to go, what's the domino effect of Ramos actually making his Phillies debut?
So I think Andrew Knapp is going to go to the minor leagues for just a couple weeks. And the same thing that I just explained with Crawford, he won't be there long enough for it to count as a minor league option, which is great for the Phillies because to have Andrew Knapp with an option next year would be helpful too, because you have to see how things play out. And who knows, maybe Ramos will stick around. I don't know. But Ramos, it looks like he'll be activated soon. He was down at Class A Clearwater, and he was hitting the cover off the ball in his few starts that he had. And at least his agent came out and said that last night was going to be his last start. He was going to travel to Philly today. As far as I know, he's not around yet. He's definitely not activated yet because the Phillies put out the lineup card, and Andrew Knapp is on there as a backup, and they announced the other roster move. But the Phillies could activate him maybe tomorrow. One nice thing about Wilson Ramos is he really hit the Red Sox hard this year, so it'd be nice to get him in there for one of the games against the Red Sox. But Ramos certainly is he's going to be around. He's going to be there to mentor the two young catchers, Knapp included, even though he might have to go to the minors for a little bit. But definitely going to be a big offensive boost to this Phillies lineup because, like the previous question asked, and as you said, he could be a really big part of this new starting lineup, and I think the Phillies are eager to get him in there. I mean, that's why they acquired him, and maybe they got lucky that they could get him for pennies on the dollar because he was hurt, but he'll probably be worth this couple weeks wait.
Frank Klose, you can check out all his work at 97.3 ESPN.com. He is our Phillies insider covering the Phillies all season long. Of course, the mailbag every Tuesday at 3:30 here on 97.3 ESPN. Frank, before I let you go, I gave you a homework assignment yesterday. I told you that I believe that Matt Chapman of the A's is the best player that nobody talks about and most people don't know who he is. So now that you've done your homework, your response is what?
Well, just wow. I knew about Chapman. He was acquired by the Athletics in exchange for Josh Donaldson,
Yep.
who, of course, was a heck of a player in his heyday, and is still on the disabled list I believe, for the Blue Jays. Now, Blue Jays were really going for it, but they paid a high price to get Donaldson, and Chapman just, wow. I just looked at his numbers. He has a WAR of over 10 for just his 1.5 seasons. I mean, he really hasn't been in the major leagues much longer than Rhys Hoskins has, and just the numbers he's putting up is amazing. So, he's probably the best player you haven't heard of, and that's just probably by virtue of him playing in Oakland, where they're still waiting for a stadium and nobody really cares. So he's buried there, but I'm sure you're going to hear about him for years.
Well, I just put him on your and everybody else's radar, so there you go. You're welcome.
Thank you.
Frank, always appreciate your time on the Boardwalk on the Hotline. Have a great day, and enjoy the Phillies tonight playing the Red Sox.
Thank you. Catch you later, guys.